And we're live, everyone. I'll try not to be too enthusiastic and whatnot. I'm joking. I just have to put one quick thing in. And we're live again with Tom. And thank heavens for that, because well, he's always pleasant company. And there's an article that pertains to him that he wrote that I quite enjoyed. And we've got Dan.
Yeah.
Of course. Unfortunately. And we have Jet, our dog. Anyways, we have Klimdog92 Vinomyu.
HVI, okay.
It's okay. Now this is going to be our first chill stream in a while. So it's going to be hopefully more relaxed than otherwise, although the last stream was very relaxing about Kull.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a hint to the audience. Go check it out. What the hell are you doing watching this stream? Watch that stream. But anyways, we've got, let me just see if I can't find it. My whole parade of tabs. I have too many tabs. All right, here we go. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we are. Our Sword and Saturday, first edition, 2024, Janvier 6. The collection thus far. Now, I did a set of, I don't want to call it magazines, but like I've tried to kind of format it like that. Posts over on the Substack, which you can see, the Brothers Crin. And on the Substack, which is in the description, along with this post in the description, you'll find this very post. And the idea is to collect all the stories that people send my way that are of fantasy on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And those with the Brothers Crin and Twitch will notice that I've scheduled live streams for Wednesdays and Saturdays, hopefully going forward. And this will be to really push the newsletter forward, the blog, and those who sent their stories and their essays on these topics forward. So, and will any story or whatever do? Sure. First up is Tales of Calamity and Triumph, which is actually the man behind the screen. I really like this guy. He's been really friendly with me, and he's really, alongside you, Tom, and ourselves, he's really been pushing the Warrior Wednesday and the Sword and Saturday events. I really do like his contribution and how he keeps sharing and resharing again and restacking every post and whatnot.
I chatted with him on a couple of the on the Substacks with the comments section, and he seems very cool.
Yeah. I've not read one of his stories. I really regret that. I really want to read his stories. It's because I've got everyone's stories scheduled up for Wednesday, like where I'm reading it over the course of the week and slowly putting my reviews, like putting together my review. I'm going to do the same thing for next Saturday. So each week I want to review the previous week's stories in one post, and then I'll have in a different post the collection of this week. So this way there's a, like the people get double the marketing and whatnot. Of course, I'm not going to review my own stories because that'd be weird. And we have The Claws of the Nlongu. I have no idea how to pronounce this. Now, what I like here that man behind the screen did is his first chapter, because this is a story, not just a short story, but it's a full-on tale. What he's done here is chapter 1. Now, what this means is, I said it's several chapters, but his name here for the clause of this is from Howard, or at least Howard had names like this for African people and tribes in his Hyborian Age world, the Black Kingdoms, as he called them. And I really like the Black Kingdoms, also because I'm a Africanophile. So I really like this touch that man behind the screen did. And it might be because I'm just a great big Howard lover. So I really like this. Oh, and we have one person already in the chat, Stephanie Frederick. She's a regular.
Hello.
Mostly on our Brothers Grin and Brothers Arda channels. Hello, Stephanie. How are you? Hope you're well. Tom's becoming a pretty regular friend of ours here because he's really a film buff. And when we do film reviews and stuff these days, it's, well, I hope you don't mind me saying, Tom, but it's useful to have you around because you know far more about the production and the process than Dan and I do. Not to mention, we're also obliged towards you and very much appreciate you considering you edited our film script and vastly improved it. So just going to shout you out there, and we'll get to shouting out your Substack in a minute, Tom.
Take your time.
All right.
Do.
All right, no problem. Now, this story has obviously got Howardian Black Kingdom nods, and I love the swamp thumbnail. Let me see if I can't. Let me see. No, I'd have to. You know what? I'm going to try this and see if I can stick to the share. Okay, here it is.
Yeah, I discovered on the pictures that you can do an AI generation of the pictures on Substack now. Did you notice that?
Well, I've been told that by Shimizu-san of the Japan Ordinary Substack, I think it is, and I never got around to trying it. I prefer to just look on Google and look for actual artists or deviant artists. And I'm thinking of starting to credit them, like post a link where I found it. That way, people can go check out the artist, and I'm helping the artist out. I don't know what you think of that. We have good. Taking a break from getting ready for the storm that is on its way. I'll hang with you all for a bit. Oh, that'd be lovely, Stephanie.
Good to have you, Stephanie.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a more relaxed stream. We're talking about our own stories, and then we're going to move to discussing maybe Conan and Kull and sword and sorcery in general, because otherwise YouTube's not going to be very nice towards me on Brothers Hyborian. Not that they're ever very nice to me, but, and Dan, I guess, they're not very nice to him either. But your company's always appreciated, Steph. Then we get the wolf, the snake, and the spider.
Good title.
Yeah. It sounds really funny. It sounds like one of those French Asterix and Obelix type stories, or Schtroumpf. Mont Saint Aubin. I just love the name. I'll try checking him out. Oh, look at that. No picture. All right. I'll try going back here. Okay. We have next up Catherine Elaine. Now, I have to admit, I read so far 2 of her stories, or at least the first chapter of this story and the first chapter of her Silk d'Orel. And her Silk d'Orel just made me think of X-Men. Now, it's better writing than anything you'll see of X-Men in recent years. But I went in wanting horror and monsters, but I got X-Men. And I have to admit, I was a little disappointed. But then with her last Daughter of Wolves, the thing that pulled me out was cussing, because she did have a few cuss words. And one of the male characters whom she tries to hold up is not exactly to my liking, Jules. But her female character, Stella, is very compelling, I found. And I have to admit, I think she's got good pros. It's just some of the characterization I've got an issue with. But she does have some talent. And as I note on my post, she has a feminine style and approach to things. And I noticed that everyone else is very masculine in their writing. She's very feminine. So I think that this could shake things up for if people are going through the list reading story by story like I am. I think that's going to shake it up and be a little different. And I know like we live in a very hyper politicized war of the sexes type era, but like if you push that aside, I think a little bit of balance is good. So at least that's what I think. And
Yes.
I think now I suggested to her, I think I'd like to see a Conan type character, like, this hyper barbarian type character, because she's got a few toxic male characters who take up the shadow male archetype. And there are reasons, legitimate reasons within the plot for them to like occupy those roles. But she's got one weaker male character, and I suggested to her she needs a hyper masculine, positive male character like Conan or Kull or Brule. Like now, Kull occasionally has his Shadow King archetype moments, but he also has his very positive king in his fullness archetypal moments. And you do need those kind of male characters in such a story. Now, her story seems to me like a dark fantasy romance. And I think that she should maybe get a Conan character. It would be interesting to have a Kull type character who in such a story, I think. And I think she's got the writing chops for it. It's just she's going in one direction, and I just think it'd be better to head in another while keeping her feminine style. Because I'd be curious to see how Kull could be written under the supervision and under the watch of a female writer. Now, I know there's all this political stuff today with a lot of male and female writers. I just say there's a lot of male writers because even they're kind of like Tom King. Oh my gosh, woof, he's terrible. But like you look at now, this is going to seem weird, but you look at okay, I'm more classical era, so you look at, let's say, Jane Austen or Mary Shelley. What would they make of a character like Kull? And I think that'd be very interesting. And
that's actually a good question.
Yeah, well, I think Catherine's Substack, from what I've seen, she seems to be trying to aim for those kind of semi-romances that really, well, she's you could tell from her literature, she's very girly. And I think that having someone like her on in this, joining in on Sword and Saturday and writing Sword and Sorcery, but from a female angle, and really having like a bit more of a Jane Austen type of point of view is really interesting. So I think her story has a lot of potential. And I'm not just trying to sell that because I'm trying to sell everyone, but it's interesting. Like you look at Man Behind the Screen, from what I can tell, he's got very masculine. Even Josh Tater, I really love Josh Tater's stories on Substack. Have I got him listed? Let me check. John, I better have put Josh. Oh darn! I don't think I did. Got to tag you. There, I'll tag him. I gotta tag him. He's one of my favorite writers on Substack. He's got such great literature. Oh shoot! I should add Red Oscar and Josh. I forgot to add the two. See, I keep forgetting people. This is why I tell people tag someone or something, and remind me if I forget someone.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Joe. So don't take it personal because I'm better at remembering faces than I am at names. That's why I have a bunch of the names written down in a little notebook here. But even sometimes I forget somebody.
Yeah, I get that. So I gotta actually edit this later after the stream or something. But Josh Tater is really good here on Substack. He's really, really good. But his characters, he brings a very almost Tolkienian and Howardian side, a very masculine edge to his characters. I just think on these events, and then you have Catherine Elaine, who brings more of the Austinian angle, and this is a interesting. It's really interesting going from reading one to reading the other. Like, I'm not the biggest Jane Austen fan, but you look at Mary Shelley, she's really good. You look at a lot of those female writers of the Victorian era, you see their stuff, and you know they're really talented.
Well, you also know that with Shelley, if you know anything about her her life, she was one of the more hard knocks living writers.
Okay.
She had a hard life in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. I don't know all the details. I just remember reading a little bit. Definitely at our time. Oh, Alexander Bukai. Catherine's approach to sword and sorcery reminds me of Jennifer Robertson's Tiger and Dell series. Not familiar with it, but I imagine. Do you know it, Tom?
No, I'm trying to remember. The name rings a bell in my brain matter, but I'm trying to, if I remember along the way, I'll mention it.
Okay. We then get Tom Hyland, of course, who's right here with us, the Highlandian. I really like this Substack name. Anyways, and what you ended up writing, let's see, is it sharing this? Let me check. Oh, darn. Okay, I'm going to actually, this is, I'm just going to quickly check my notification bell because, yeah, okay. Well, you ended up writing an article here. Actually, I'd rather just temporarily stop sharing, and I'm going to share it because the article itself is really interesting. And this is worth discussing because I wanted to write an article about the Kull movie, but I think what you ended up doing, now here's this great poster. I love Sorbo and Tia Carrera in this poster. What you ended up doing, shoot, I thought I restacked it ordinarily. Okay, there. So I'm there. Now, what you ended up doing was you cover the backstory of this movie, and this movie's got a fascinating one. You know what? Why don't you tell a bit of the tale, and I'll just listen and scroll through this.
Well, the story itself, that it originally was supposed to be a Conan 3 movie, and well, they couldn't get Schwarzenegger for a couple of reasons, but stems all the way back to 1984's Conan the Destroyer. He wasn't entirely too happy with how that one turned out because that one had a lot more meddling from Dino De Laurentiis, because the money men at the time were telling them that the ET made more money than Conan, and it's rated PG. If we make the movie PG, we'll make more money. Well, that as a result hampered with Conan the Destroyer. And the ironic thing is that had they waited a week before they announced the release, they could have gotten one of the early PG-13 ratings to where it would be a lot more, include some of the stuff that was that they cut out, that there's rumored to be what's called a Fleischer cut, an R-rated, kind of like a PG-13, close to R-rated version that Schwarzenegger was passionate about, but who knows if we'll get that someday. The end of this month, we're getting a release of Conan the Destroyer on Arrow Video, and I pre-ordered that. And I will pre-order Barbarian 2 when I get the time. But then going forward after Destroyer, you have Red Sonja, where Dino De Laurentiis wanted to hire Schwarzenegger as, I want you to do a cameo appearance. And he was paid less than what he was because it was a cameo. Well, when he arrived the day on set, he goes, I'm practically in this whole movie and you're paying me for a cameo? And plus the movie
wasn't very good.
It's the worst Howardian movie out there, I'd say.
Yeah.
But, so much so that Schwarzenegger does not look back on it fondly.
Would you?
Not to mention, at that time of Red Sonja, you had, that was around 84 or 85. Rocky 4 came out, and basically Stallone was getting to do everything he wanted to do. And they had their rivalry back then, and Schwarzenegger, I think, was a little upset about how Stallone was outdoing him every turn of the week, at least for a brief time, from First Blood to Rocky 3 and 4. So, but Schwarzenegger had actually managed to hold his ground with Conan the Barbarian, but everything afterwards seems to have fallen under Stallone's shadow.
Yeah.
At least for a brief.
After Red Sonja in '87, Dino De Laurentiis wanted Schwarzenegger to come back to do Conan 3, which was then called Conan the Conqueror. But Schwarzenegger, because of after what happened between Destroyer and Red Sonja, he really didn't want to get to work with the De Laurentiis family anymore as much. And he had a good excuse, though. He was doing Predator. And the shooting of Predator interfered with Conan, so he had a plausible excuse to get out of it. But then we fast forward 10 years to the almost night. By 1995, they wanted to bring it back together. By this time, Dino De Laurentiis had pretty much retired. His daughter Rafaela had taken over the rings, but his daughter wasn't the real shark like what her dad was, just in my opinion, as far as producing. And she so Arnold basically rolled her over, and plus he at the same time, it was the height of Schwarzenegger's career. This was post True Lies, where he was offered $25 million to star in the 4th Batman movie with Batman and Robin over at Warner Brothers.
A movie he enjoyed, apparently, because he got to ham it up.
Yeah, well, that ends up, it's now considered, that went in retrospect, was one of the worst Batman movies ever made.
Yeah.
And
funny.
However, he only did Batman and Robin with Warner Brothers because he came very close to doing I Am Legend with Ridley Scott, and he would have been paid $25 million as well. But
should have gone for that deal.
He did go for the deal, but the problem was the studio politics. They thought it was kind of too dark and a little too pricey, so they shelved that project. Ridley Scott then did Hannibal, and then after that he made his big mark with Gladiator, which is the height of Scott's career. But anyway, getting back to Kull, yes. Well, Rafaela De Laurentiis was in a pickle at that point because she had a commitment with Universal for a 3rd Conan movie, or at least something related to Robert E. Howard. And she couldn't get Schwarzenegger, and so she thought, okay, who can I get that I won't have to spend a whole lot of money on, but is still a big star? Well, at that time, she was told, probably through turning on the TV set too, Hercules: The Legendary Journey, starring Kevin Sorbo,
best TV show ever.
That was a huge show. She thought, wait a minute, and it had a big following among younger people. And she approached Sorbo about him being the next Conan, but Sorbo, very wisely, I think, because looking at history, kind of like what happened with George Lazenby with James Bond after taking over from Sean Connery. He didn't want to be roasted. He didn't want that. He was afraid he would face the same fate as that. And plus, he didn't want to step in Schwarzenegger's shoes because that was Schwarzenegger's turfs, and plus, but Sorbo, as far as I recall, did like the script, and he was a fan of the Howard source material. So he said, "Look, why don't you just make it about Kull, which is basically set, which is 8,000 years before the Hyborian Age, the Thurian Age, and do Conan the Conqueror and just apply elements of Kull into it." Because he came out and said too that because if you look at Conan the Barbarian, that's not really a Conan movie. That's basically a Kull movie with Conan. Because Conan the Barbarian and Tulsa Doom was a Kull villain.
Mm-hmm.
And the Snake People were from the Thurian Age. But so
what Pogue does, along with Sorbo, is they take the Age of Acheron, which is after the Thurian Age, and put it before the Thurian Age. So they do a bit of a switcheroo.
Yes, to spice it up because
they really needed Acheron.
Yeah, they realized that you know what, if we're going to make this a Kull thing, we need Acheron in there somehow. So the screenwriter Charles Edward Pogue, I think his name is. I don't remember the top of my head. He had previously worked with Raffaello de Laurentiis on Dragonheart.
Yep, I love that movie.
Which is another good movie.
Great one.
And he reset it to where it was called, everything was set. They thought, and Universal was happy. Wait a minute, Kevin Sorbo's a rising star. That show Hercules, you can get him to be in an original property that's based on Howard, and we don't have to pay all that money like we would for Schwarzenegger. They were ecstatic. But then problems, studio politics happened again, where they're like, wait a minute, Hercules, that's pretty much kids and teenagers that watches that. If we make Kull an R-rated movie, the parents aren't going to take their kids to see it. It's not going to do well. So we have to, so they watered it down. And plus it's
never a good idea.
And they also shortened it down to an hour and a half movie, not counting the credits, which is like adds another 5 minutes to it. But the movie really is an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so what they did, however, at the same time was they had sacrificed a background storyline that was more about Kull and involved a story with Kull's father. Tied into that. But Sorbo, he wasn't too thrilled that they watered it down. He really felt they should have included it should have been at least an hour and 45-minute movie. Or if it was going to be PG-13, but they wanted to go down. I think the movie's rated PG for the time, isn't it?
I thought it was PG-13.
Okay, PG-13. Well,
but it could be PG.
They make the movie, but it's faced with some other problems. Around the time that the movie is released, a big event happens.
Princess Diana's death.
Yes, Princess Diana dies. Well, back then, especially that period in the 97, there was no Netflix. There was no. The news cycle was much more basic. If you want to watch the news, you had to sit down at a time when it was on. You couldn't TiVo it or watch it on reruns on a 24-hour cycle. And people were glued because Diana, if you look at her, she was a very popular character, a popular lady, I mean, worldwide, well-liked, especially here in the States. And a lot of people stayed home to watch their funeral and the services rather than go to the movies. But what didn't help was that when Kull did premiere, it premiered at number 9 with a little over $3 million, and the final run for it domestically was $6,100,000.
That's terrible.
Which on a $30 million budget, I don't know how it did overseas. It might have done better overseas, but
it crashed and burned.
It what?
It crashed and burned.
Yeah, it basically here and domestically, it crashed and burned and went away pretty quick.
Which is sad because it's a really, really great film.
Yeah, and because I bought the Blu-ray around New Year's. I got it on New Year's Eve the day before New Year's Eve, I think it was, and I watched it on New Year's Day, and I've watched it. Today's the 6th. Yes, well, I've watched it about 5 times once a day now, and I've watched it 5 times since then, and I find that it has an effect on me that I found an effect as a young kid with Conan the Destroyer. Now, people might criticize me for what I say about my fondness for Destroyer, but as someone that grew up reading Howard, and when I first saw Conan the Barbarian later on, I got, this isn't Conan, this is Kull, this is basically Kull. And that was my big critique of Barbarian, which I am not putting down Conan the Barbarian, the movie. It is a great film on its merit. But if you want to do like a faithful adaptation of Howard, particularly Conan the Destroyer is probably the most faithful adaptation of a Conan property that we've gotten yet so far. And plus, I saw Destroyer as a kid because that's the more family friendly of the two Schwarzenegger movies, and even among kids I grew up with, they all saw Destroyer first before they saw Barbarian.
So, for people who are curious, if you want to support Tom's Highlandian Substack, you'll find the article comprising all of these stories and essay, all in the description. So check it out. Subscribe to him over on Substack. He's got some really good film analysis and essay stuff. I'm just going to be honest. I really like your essays, especially when they're fantasy movies and you dissect them and whatnot. I'd also love to see you do stuff like on Shawshank or the production of, I don't know, Inner Shoes. I know that's a chick flick a bit, but I find that's a great movie. And The Mask.
Inner Shoes, which one's that one?
Inner Shoes with Cameron Diaz. She plays a dyslexic sister of a lawyer, and it follows the lives of this lawyer woman and her younger sister who is a slut and is dyslexic. And the two of them at first hate each other, but they come to the movie's actually about their bond as sisters, and they come to love each other. But originally they hate each other.
Very recommended.
Isn't that the one where Cameron Diaz moved into the nursing home?
Yes, that's it, exactly.
Yes,
okay, I know.
That's the one.
I didn't see it, but I've heard of it.
Oh, okay. I hope it's mostly good things you've heard. I really enjoyed it.
Same here.
I saw it in the Ebert recommendations, I think, at one point, and I went, oh, I'll try it. Because Ebert, I know people didn't always agree with Roger Ebert's ratings, but I always found that I liked some movies he liked, I liked. Some of them he didn't like, I did like. But generally, when he liked something or disliked something, there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
And really, him and Gene Siskel are really a set of inspirations for our channel.
But Critics today, though, especially, it's the quality. The art of film criticism has literally gone down the toilet like professional wrestling.
Yeah. Sadly.
It's all about scoring those political points and, well, we don't like it because this person here is this and he's affiliated with this person, and
yeah,
he did this and he didn't toe the line,
or the corporation comes in and gives them money and tells them this is going to be your opinion on the movie, which Siskel and Ebert were never like that. They hated corporations that tried to meddle with their criticism.
Which, ironically enough, it was recently, I know how you feel about this movie, but it was recently disclosed that over half the early ratings on Rebel Moon were by the critics who had never seen the movie, never watched the movie. They were basically paid, supposedly. This is the allegation: is that these certain elite critics for these elite magazines were driven by an agenda and the almighty dollar to essentially predispose that movie, and then it makes you wonder. Well, if that's happened, it's got to happen all the time.
Yeah, honestly, Dan and I hated that movie, and we found it incomprehensible. But we actually sat down through, I think, 40 to 55 minutes of it before we turned it off.
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I thought it was a little incomprehensible because usually Snyder's theatrical cuts are incomprehensible. But when I watched it a couple of times, I kind of see that, okay, I'm not going to cast final judgment on it until I see the so-called Snyder cut.
I hope there isn't a Snyder cut, only because I'm tired of.
Which, honestly, I think they should have just released the Snyder cut beforehand. I think this whole thing with release this watered-down PG-13 thing.
It's Snyder who does this. He keeps doing this just to market himself and just get a second movie made and make more money.
It's all about making the money.
Yeah,
that's all director's cuts are there for now.
Yeah. I mean, even Ridley Scott, his director's cut, he prefers the theatrical cut to the director's cut of Alien.
Oh, wow. And, of course, you have... I like the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, though. That one was good.
Yeah. I never saw the director's cut to Kingdom of Heaven. I've always wanted to.
It's amazing. I think it was available at one point on Netflix. It might be available elsewhere.
The extended cut to Gladiator, I really enjoyed.
Never seen that one.
Neither did I.
Which that was just a remake to the Samuel Bronston Sword and Sandal flop, The Fall of the Roman Empire with Sophia Loren is all it was.
I should check that one out as well. And we've got our Swift Shadow Murders first chapter, which is more of a love letter to Ivanhoe. And it's also a bit of a murder mystery. So what I'm hoping to do is I've got the mystery mostly, like the culprit figured out, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. So it's going to be as much a journey for me as it is for the readers with this story. And of course, I'm going to have to add Josh Tater and Red Oscar. They're two dudes. You know what? I'm just going to... I think people will probably be able to see me edit this. I'll just go edit. And people could see me edit this on screen because I really do owe Tater and Red Oscar. Nope. Yeah. The two of them have been so understanding and kind. And let's see. There. And as you guys can see, I used Thulsa Doom in his dude's charges. there. Now let's go here. I'm just ignoring the notification bell for now because, yeah, so I'll just quickly check out. I really want to push this as well because I like this story. I enjoyed writing this one, The Dark Spire Conspiracy, which is more Lord of the Rings type story, except set in a fantasy version of Scandinavia.
Scandinavia.
Yeah. Well, I call the kingdom, the Broken Kingdom, Norvik, and it's supposed to be Norway. And the idea is that the line of kings have been, well, they've lost their throne, and it's become I don't know how to put it, but a warring states period where the lords, the jarls, are all destroying each other and waging war and forming alliances and whatnot. And for more than a millennia, the Dark Spire has been a mystery. It's been in the shadows, and there's a map to it, but the map was lost, and it's possible the map may have been discovered. What started along with Jarls, and one of the characters introduced in the first chapter is descended from Gustafur. And the map, he's accused of knowing where the map is, and that his lineage is always known. And the map can lead you to the Dark Spire, where there's I can't say dark lady, but a witch of considerable power is said to be laid to rest. And the trouble is that there are those who are actively pursuing and trying to revive her. And our heroes are going to have to try to set out on the quest to stop this. And the thing is, you would think they'd just immediately burn the map, but there's going to be, well, I've got ideas with that. And they're pursuing those who have it. And, well, sort of. They're out for revenge for the murdered Jarl. So that's starting in chapter 2. It's not much of a spoiler. And that's going to be the main plot thread throughout this book, which is
now this is going to be a serial novel you're going to post for the time being on Substack.
Yep.
And was there any future plans of publishing it?
Yep. I've already spoken with Daniel Riley. He's going to edit it once it's completed, and we're basically going to see about having him edit it. And it's going to be divided into 3 volumes because, of course, this is more for ease of me as the writer, so that I can 3 or 4 volumes, so I could just, write piece by piece and slowly make sure it gets out there. And keeping to the serial novel element allows people to see my drafts as I complete them and step by step, and allows me to get feedback while I'm writing. And so, I get to improve and fix what I can and try to make sure it's on track. And this way, I get to build up more of an audience, and people get to read the story of the Dark Spire Conspiracy, the story of Sigrun. And Sigrun is a young shield maiden who was a peasant girl, but for some reason the Jarl took an interest in her and took her in as his foster daughter. And the reason for this is going to be revealed in like a few chapters down the road. And he had a very specific reason for doing this. But that said, basically the first chapter is just people preparing the party, the festival, the feast to welcome him there because he's the Jarl. And they've got their local sorcerer who lives in a castle a short distance away, but he's not a Jarl. He's little more than I don't want to say hermit, but like he's like the neighbor with just the biggest house. So they have the feast at his place, and the party gets crashed by an unknown shadowy figure who has his own backstory and his own angle, an important role to play in the story that's to come. And from there, Sigrun has the story. The arrow of fate points in one direction. She follows it because, well, this Jarl who died was like a dad to her. So she, of course, wants to
avenge him.
Yeah. And she's going to be journeying with her stepbrother, her childhood friend Othun, and with Othun's sorcerer master, who, of course, is assuming a mentor role at the start. And they also have to go inform the Jarl's family that he has died, so that's also something they have to do along the way.
Oh.
Yeah. And
you going to publish this by Amazon down the road, or who are you going to publish with?
I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh.
I've talked to Daniel, and he's made some suggestions, and I'm going to mull them over because he suggested Lulu as well as a possibility, and I want to first figure out that. And he and I are going to discuss this like down the road. I told him I'm hoping to have the first volume finished for next year, and from there we're going to, like have him edit this. Now, any funds gained from this, because eventually, for those who may not notice, Blonde Beauty here is with at the bottom is the novel in question. But the idea is to eventually put some of the chapters behind a paywall later. So the later chapters, past maybe chapter 3 or 4, and from there, the idea would be that whatever money is made from this will be used as a publishing fund, and that publishing fund that Dan and I will share will be put to having the book proofread, edited, and we then put it back out there to you guys.
Yes.
And this way, there's hopefully at some point down the road, it'll just be a cycle feeding itself. So like whatever money we make off Substack and Ream, another serial novel site, these funds will just be spent on books, publishing books. And in turn, the books will hopefully gain enough money to pay for the next book or something. And the idea is to constantly be in a loop. And as it is, Dan and I are also working on several co-written projects like Baron Cub. Our mother recently introduced us to someone who works in a film production company in Canada. So we've been asked to supply 1 or 2 scripts for them. Not Hamunder. We're not going to submit that one. We're keeping that one with you, Tom, because that one's the important one.
I have to level with you now, because I don't know if I posted this in my article last night. I kind of realized, because I've been mainly focusing on 2 projects: the Guns Drawn novella and adaptation, and Primerian Age. But I am realizing that the depth of the work to making a movie, while at the same time trying to will take up the time that I need and want to develop Primerian Age. And with Primerian Age, I would be basically creating my own IP. But whereas with Guns Drawn, that's just one movie.
I think in this case, the movie you could do first, and I don't know. And
I can't. The problem is, I move very slow with how I go about. So it could be years before things get done, and I don't want that to pass where I'm not doing anything with Primerian. So I made the conscious decision to put Guns Drawn aside as publishing the novella. Instead, I had already previously posted an original draft of Guns Drawn on Substack in September. But today I published the updated version in 3 parts.
Okay.
And the script, it works better as a play. So what I'm
Mhm.
thinking of doing is, if I do get back to it after I take it, but I need a break from Primeria, which will probably be a while. I'm going to rework it as a play and see about maybe putting it on production and maybe using the base of the play and the unpublished novella as a means to maybe sell it to somebody as a film, because filmmaking, and plus I find it, when I was a real younger, I really obsessively wanted to be a filmmaker, but as I've gotten older and and when you get older, you kind of see how the world operates. And my case, I did some PA extra work when I lived in California on 2 different movies, and there's a reason why Hollywood has the moniker Holly Weird, which I won't get into that because I've seen and heard some stuff that some of these guys, especially with some of these celebrity big names today, which I won't mention names, some of the things they did to get ahead. And it's basically, they basically sold their souls essentially for pennies on the dollar so they can get like fame for now. But when the time comes and your time is over, you got to pay the reaper. And there is a parallel economy, a parallel film industry emerging. That's all thanks to the Daily Wire. That's the one I was probably been more involved with their group. But you know, I'm plus two. I'm a lot more passionate about the Primerian Age than I am about guns drawn. I want to do what I'm more passionate about. So yeah, there's that. But as far as Hamburg goes, well, I don't know where it's going to go with me in the film industry. So it might not go anywhere. So I just want to bring it to you guys that even the script that I helped you edit, it might not go anywhere. So I don't want you to be disappointed.
It's okay.
Because
hey, these things happen, and like the only thing you can do is your very best, and at times, you got to leave it in what one of my friends told me today. You got to leave it in God's hands, because
yes,
there are times when you've maxed out. That's all you could do, and go from there. And really, like, you look at the YouTube thing on our end, we expect it to be so much further along. And
Yep.
we've realized in the past few months, we're never going to get anywhere on YouTube. And
Crashed and burned.
yep. And
Yeah.
we've got a small little niche corner. And that's all.
You got Storyfire, you got Substack, and I know Rumble has its quirks, but I would utilize Rumble because you can set Rumble up to where they can post it on YouTube for you, and you can monetize it that way.
Well,
but,
I've actually got it synced between the two.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And so when we update Brothers Crane, Brothers Saborian, and I think Power Rangers, we're updating Rumble. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, real quick. Mark, I'm not even going to say his surname. I always screw it up. And he always teases me about that. So, guten Abend. Good evening, Mark. So, yeah. Well, it is what it is. And we'll see what the future holds, because you don't know the future. It's fluid, not fixed.
Yeah,
And hey,
everybody thinks they're in control, but really, there's
no
a
one,
reason why there's a saying nothing goes according to plan, because really we aren't the ones in control.
no, no, that's very true. And look at it this way. I also ended up a few years back starting to put together a video game, a nice little 2D video game, and everything fell apart immediately, and I didn't manage to get that produced beyond the very simplest, like not even the first 5 minutes of the game, and the production just died. So these things happen, and I kind of think that sometimes it's like it's merely a matter of reworking and things and being patient. In your
Yeah,
case, guns drawn uh, has to be put off for a bit, and for now you
yeah,
work on Miriam and you work on other great stories like that, and you put in the work, you build your platform, and down the road you'll make that guns drawn movie. But the play idea is a very good one. Designing it as a play is a really crafty idea, and who knows, you might gain popularity and get the movie made.
well, one
That
of the problems I've had with the guns drawn is I'm getting positive feedback on the story itself, but the problem is they're saying is that, well, the people with the way they talk and the way they interact, this is something how they would do back in the 40s and the 50s and the 30s. Because, well, another what doesn't help is that I basically grew up reading Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, Ed McBain, Mickey Spillane. I never grew up on modern literature when it came to the hard boiled genre. So plus, I've read a couple of the modern things, and most of it doesn't appeal to me. But I'm I'm thinking more and more that the novella version you have on Substack will exist itself, but down the line after I do Primeria, if I do revisit the novella, I might set it during Prohibition era, during
Hmm.
the 1930, 1929, at the height of Prohibition, and tie it in with that to but it still be the contained story that it is. Because I even played with the idea of making it like like a tech noir thing, kind of like off of Blade Runner. But then I thought, no, I'm kind of more attracted now to the doing something set in the older period, because I'll be honest, I'm not very good at writing modern stuff. I only have
neither am I.
what?
Ne- neither am I.
Yeah, because
It, like
I
it's a lot
only
harder, I think.
oh yeah, I only have one published book, a western, which I'm very proud of. And in March, I'm going to be getting a new cover to that, and then I'll get a couple review copies out, and I'll send one you guys' way. And but essentially, I'm at the point now to where tomorrow I'm going to be posting a new version of a previous short story that I had published on Substack earlier, called Mean Business at Dragontooth Pass. Well, I basically rewrote it and changed the town, and now it's called The Incident at Dancers Rock. But the story is the same. So I'm going to be posting that version, and essentially anything that I publish now, it's pretty much going to be Primerian related.
Oh, well, that's good.
I'm going to be focusing my effort because I want to set this up to where there's a tabletop role-playing game. There's an opportunity to do comic stories, other stuff, but I want to do it in a way kind of like what Eric July is doing, is to where get other people to come in and write stuff for them. What I want to do, though, compared to what Eric July is doing, is I want to get Iron Age creatives on board. Like I'm turning to you guys. I might turn to a bunch of others and say, "Hey, this is the universe." And as I'm writing, because even today, I'm writing the world building. I'm writing it out kind of like Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age essay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm done with that, probably next week, I'll send you a copy. I'll send it to you, and you guys can do your notes on, have your input, and because this is something where essentially once I'm gone, I automatically want to put Primerian Age in public domain and have anybody come in and work in the universe, kind of like what Dungeons and Dragons used to be before Hasbro got their claws into it.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not sure what I'd want to do with the IPs Dan and I are creating after I'm gone, because on some level, like I really like copyright because I like to protect my holdings, I guess. I'm jealous and possessive of them. But when I think of what the Tolkien estate has become,
exactly,
like Simon,
that's my thing right there. Is
but I think it would depend on. This might sound weird. On my kids, because if my kids show interest and show themselves to have the enthusiasm like what Christopher did, I think it's only right to leave it entirely to them and for them to like give them the written instructions maybe after you guys put it in the public domain, but they should have, this is their heritage, this is the legacy I'll leave them, so they should have some sort of say. So I actually understand both perspectives, and I think that what's interesting is that the Howardian legacy has been one which has been more rock solid and better protected, in spite of the fact that there's not much copyright over what Howard has built. And you could actually build up an entire streaming service just with Howard's IPs. He has so many. And he was such a prolific writer. And
he did all that within a 10-year period.
Yeah, which is amazing. Let me see. When I go to write the Darkspire conspiracy, I'm writing like 1 page a day, and then I'm writing 1 page for the Aganyu story, my Prince of Flame story, 1 page for for Baron Cobb, and 1 page, if I can, I'm going to start on the Heracles story, and about half a page on Jex the Hero. But between all these serial novels, I can only really get 1 or 2 pages at a time a day each, and slowly bring them together. But I could write faster, but I tend to prefer to write slower in order to write better, I find.
Yeah, because when you tend to rush it, you look back, you realize you wrote a bunch of nonsense, basically.
But Howard could write super quick and typically wrote really well.
Oh, plus when he did it he went full bore into to where he would put his butt on a seat and he would write for 12 to 18 hours a day in between taking care of his mother, and he did that full time.
Yeah.
That was why he had so much material within that 10-year period.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he actually wrote a lot more prolifically during those 10 years than Tolkien. But Tolkien, what he did was interesting because Tolkien had what was it? Let me just calculate this, about a 57-year period thereabouts, in which he was writing his vast mythos. But really, Howard wrote in 10 years what Tolkien wrote slowly over the course of 70. Right?
Well,
57 years.
Even Tolkien was very impressed with the output of Howard
Yeah.
because he's like, and he even commented too. It's a tragedy that he's not alive to see the influence his work has had on everything.
Yeah. And
Because he really liked Robert E. Howard's writing.
he only read the one story to my knowledge, and it was Black Colossus, which is a really good story.
Well, as far as I know, he read other stuff too. Like I believe he did read Hour of the Dragon, and I think I don't remember where this was, but somewhere they said that he was very impressed with Hour of the Dragon, particularly, and he thought because he really did not like very many people other than C.S. Lewis or any people that he didn't know, because well, like what he said is basically that when he published his epic, everybody wanted to copy him. Basically, when you had like Terry Brooks and a bunch of others that came along. I'm not degrading Terry Brooks or anything, but there is.
I am, so you don't have to, Tom.
Well,
I'm joking.
there's the market was flooded with Tolkien copycats and imitators, much like how the movie market was flooded with space opera copycats when Star Wars came out.
And as George Lucas put it, they all sucked.
The only one that he liked was Battle Beyond the Stars that Roger Corman produced, because that one's like the Seventh Samurai in space, which, spoiler alert, that's basically Rebel Moon.
Yeah, the only other one that I can think of that Lucas may have enjoyed would have been Spaceballs.
Oh yeah, you enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah, because he's a big Mel Brooks fan.
Yeah, and I know he helped bankroll that movie and Lucas really liked all the spoofs of his movies. He had a quality where I'll actually give him a compliment. I know a lot of fans would hate anyone complimenting him, but George Lucas had a good sense of humor. Like he liked to laugh at himself. And I'll just be honest. This is a marked contrast to say Steven Spielberg, whom does not like to laugh at himself and has thin skin. Whereas and Lucas has this quality of thick skin when it comes to laughing at himself that there's almost no director with that quality today. And it's very interesting because how they approach their work and how he did. I'm going to argue he approaches it more of a creative,
Well, and the funny thing is, because they say that Spielberg, when they look back, will be known as the most successful film director to ever walk out of Hollywood. But people have been saying that the most important American director, rather than popular or successful, they all say today was Stanley Kubrick.
Kubrick was pretty good. I'm actually going to sound weird, and I'm going to say no, it's Lucas. But Lucas is someone whom this is going to sound weird. I think in 100 years, nobody's going to care about Spielberg and Kubrick and the rest of them. I think it's going to be Lucas because the thing is, no one made any movies on the scale he did.
Yeah, well, another one I think that didn't get the recognition or didn't have the deserve that I think will be as remembered as Lucas is John Milius.
John Milius is really going to be well remembered. He's brilliant.
Because his work, I really believe we're in the beginnings of a conservative counterculture movement, and his politics and in his movies and his style is a lot more popular among the emergent counterculture movement. And he'll, like 50 years from now, even 50 to 100 years after he's gone, he'll probably be more high regard.
Well,
along with
yeah,
Lucas.
And his style was very much a operatic. Like there's an opera element, and it's I'd say it's very reminiscent of Wagner in a way with the opera of the Nibelungen.
Oh yeah,
and like I don't like Lucas obviously borrowed from Kurosawa, Akira,
Well,
and
his big influence was Joseph Campbell.
yeah, and the other the other thing with Lucas is just how many millions and millions and millions of people have seen his Star Wars movies and are still seeing their Star Wars movies, the Star Wars movies, like this original six, and just passing it along and passing it along. And this, um,
I don't
like,
know. I don't think Star Wars might be around much longer, especially if they make that Rey movie.
well, I think that the six will endure and they'll have a resurgence in popularity in a few decades. And
Yeah, I think we're at a point to where even with Lord of the Rings, where you know what, we need to stop making all these DC,
adaptations.
Marvel, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings properties into projects. We've overdone that, and give it like 10 to 20 years before we go back into it.
I think maybe 30, but
30. Well, 30 for Marvel and DC.
oh gosh, yes. They've not made a single good movie since like Iron Man.
Yeah.
But we have the ultimate Kahuna.
Hey, guy, how you doing?
I've never seen him before. I guess he's
Oh, he's on Royce's Gilded.
oh cool. I'll be doing another reading stream soon. I'd love to read one of your stories on stream. Is he referring to you or me here?
Well, either or, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd all love that.
Yeah. If it's one of Tom's, try reading the Guns Drawn novella. And at least part one, you could divide it into part one, part two, part three, considering there's a revised edition. If it's Dan and my's work, I recommend Darkspire Conspiracy. I'll show it in a minute again. But first, I have to mark it Don Harper Jr. because I forgot to add him in. Apparently, my notifications didn't pick up him tagging me at one point.
Ooh.
Which is weird. I apologize to him. And I really love his YouTube channel. He's got a great channel. He's a really good musician. Have you heard his music?
No.
He's brilliant.
Can you send me a link to his music?
Sure. Let me just find his YouTube channel. I'll do it right now so that I don't forget. Let me see. Don Harper Jr. Oh, wait. He's right there. He's right there. First thing that came up. Okay. Let's see. Make sure I'll click on his music. Actually, I'm going to put it in the chat. Oh, I'm starting to have. Okay, I do this, and so that everybody in the chat can have it, and either or both. Yeah, sure, either or both. I'd be very grateful, but yeah, give me also. You know what? We'll have to have. You'll have to give me the Ultimate Kahuna's YouTube channel in the private chat or something, Tom, because
all right.
I
gotta look it up. I don't have access to my things on me right now. I just have my one device.
Okay, no problem. You know what? I could just look them up later after
You know
the
what?
stream. Now,
I can. I'll reach out to him on the.
I've just sent you the link, Joe.
Oh, that's even better. Via Discord.
I'm sorry. What happened?
Yep.
Dan just sent me the link to the Ultimate Kahuna's channel.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So, yay! I'll be sure to sub to you in a minute. The Ultimate Kahuna. Of all the stories, I like Darkspire Conspiracy the most that I've written so far. But apparently, the man behind the screen likes the Swift Shadow Murders the most, which I thought that was interesting because I didn't know if this was one of my better works. I just love Ivanhoe, and I wanted to write an Ivanhoe story.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if that would fit in with Sword and Sorcery.
I did like your article about referring to Padme as a Lady Macbeth.
Yeah, that was that was because when we were young, uh, we watched episodes 2 and 3 in the theaters, and I remember just being horrified when Padme just basically went, "Well, it's okay that you butchered all the Tuscans, so long as you feel bad about it or it hurts you." And I was like, "What a terrible moral lesson!" And I remember being about 11 years old, and I was like, "She's hot, but wow, she's horrible." And our dad told us, "Don't ever go for a woman like that." And he said it I think in French, right, Dan? And it's like, and it was like, yeah, okay. But then over the years, I would rewatch episode 2. I really like it, the movie, and I would just stop at that scene and just pause it, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was that, like, kind of got to me. And it's when I was sitting down to actually write the essay, I thought more deeply on it, and I thought back to the scene weirdly of episode 3 when she says, "You're breaking my heart and whatnot, and you murdered younglings," and she's so horrified. And I was like, in hindsight, why is she horrified? She said this was okay. And that's when I got a clue into how Vader was thinking. I'm like, oh, that's why he freaks out, because she was sending mixed signals here. She said it's okay to butcher children, so long as you feel bad about it. And so she really confused Vader. And she was the one who played the Lady Macbeth role, because Lady Macbeth, when she hears about the prophecy of Macbeth being king in the Shakespeare play, she says, "Okay, well, you got to go kill the king because you got to become king. You got to turn to the dark side, honey." And you have Macbeth. "Well, I don't know about this one. Like, I don't feel right about this." And Lady Macbeth pushes him over the cliff and tells him, "Go commit murder."
See, when I think of Macbeth, I think of Throne of Blood.
Yeah. I have to watch that movie. And
it's awesome.
Everybody keeps saying, and I'm sure it is. I plan to watch it in a few days. But the thing is, in the play, which is my favorite Shakespeare play, Lady Macbeth, at the end goes nuts and becomes consumed with guilt and grief. And really, her character arc is very similar to Padme's. So you get this weird dichotomy between the two characters that's very similar, in which Padme, after the murder of the Tuscans, pushed Anakin towards the idea, it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong. But in reality, now, there was someone who said, like, the massacre was okay and totally justified because the Tuscans are monsters. But what it was Dan who really said, when we were discussing that comment in private, just going, why is it that that sticks out to us? It's that it was wrong. The massacre was wrong, not because the Tuscans are good or deserve to live. They're horrible. They're monsters. But the reason Anakin should not have committed this massacre was because it was a violation of Anakin's soul. It was a violation of Anakin. And Vader is really born in that moment. The father of Vader is the Tuscans. The mother of Vader is Padme. And it is through this weird union between the two that Vader comes into being. And in a way, the man Padme loved was not Anakin, because she falls in love with Anakin after this moment. And that is wrong, because the Anakin she falls in love with is not Anakin.
Is Vader.
Yeah. Whereas Anakin, what's his reaction to her saying, it's okay to hurt is to be human. It's okay that you did this. Well, she doesn't say it's okay that you did this, but the implication is there. What Anakin says is, this is wrong. This is evil. I'm a Jedi. I am better than this. I know I'm better than this. So Anakin's rejecting the immorality here. And it's just, when I was writing this article, or at least right before I started, I was like, oh, she's Lady Macbeth. And it's interesting because it might sound weird, but I kind of think that this is going to sound weird. Had Qui-Gon Jinn come back into Anakin's life, Anakin would have turned to the dark side sooner, because Qui-Gon would have broken Anakin, because Qui-Gon's very controlling, even more so than Mace or or what people imagine Mace to be, or Dooku. Qui-Gon is very controlling. He at one point broke Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan was a broken man. And Obi-Wan had to put himself back together. The Obi-Wan we see in episode 1 is bitter, a little broken, angry, and he's not happy with where he is with his master, because his master has had about 7 years of abusing him to an extent. Now, I'm not saying Qui-Gon's a horrible man. He's a good man. But the trouble is Qui-Gon Jinn was not a good father figure to Obi-Wan. He took him for granted, and he treated him like garbage for a good chunk of the books. And Obi-Wan was really carrying the team between the two. But the thing is, you have a bitter relationship that they repair right before the mall fight, with that scene about where the two apologize to each other. Because the fight over Anakin was just a minor blip. They were fighting about other stuff long before Anakin was in the picture. So the two of them were not on good terms to an extent. On the surface they were, but underneath it, no. But the truth is, Qui-Gon probably would have he would have behaved the same way with Anakin. And that would have Anakin was not as patient and tolerant as Obi-Wan with that sort of stuff and abuse.
Yeah.
So he would have broken sooner. Not to mention, Anakin was always more sensitive than Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And I actually think, as much as Obi-Wan was verbally abusive to Anakin, Obi-Wan did show a few times, quite a lot, he deeply loved and valued Anakin. And he was a father. And Anakin knew he was loved deep down. And the thing is, Qui-Gon isn't good at showing that stuff. So, Padme, though, it's not Palpatine who turned Anakin, but it's Padme, in a way, who turned him. And by pushing Anakin into thinking it's okay what he did was wrong. And even like the scene where he says it's all Obi-Wan's fault, that first half, he's jealous, he's holding me back. Really, having rewatched the scene, I was thinking, this is a baby boy crying out for his father, because his mommy died, Shmi, his mom died. What he's really crying for is not Padme. He needs his father in that moment. He needs, like Obi-Wan would have probably cried out, my fault? How's it my fault? And Obi-Wan would have scolded him and disciplined him and told him, you committed this horrible act. How dare you? And then you throw it at me? How dare you? But that's what Anakin wanted. And then Obi-Wan would forgive him and give him the absolution and the closure he needed. Padme did not give him that. So it's a very complex scene that Lucas built there. And it's a very awful thing. But at his core, Anakin is a moral child who needs his father. And he needs his dad to hold him and make sure it's going to be okay. Because the Tusken who killed Shmi was the same Tusken Anakin saved at 9 years old in the novel. So there's also that. So you have a lot of factors at play here. And this is a very complex scene. And
it puts some things in perspective with Padme being a lot like Lady Macbeth, because in the play, Lady Macbeth gets buyer's remorse eventually.
Yeah.
Padme gets that at the end of episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3. Although I think what's interesting is that the way Obi-Wan tells Anakin the way things are, like bluntly, not softening, and like tells him what he needs to hear, not what he wants to hear. Yoda, Palpatine, Padme, they always tell Anakin what he wants to hear, not what he needs to hear. And deep down, Anakin doesn't like that. But Luke is the one person who told him what he needed to hear eventually. And Luke pushes him into being a better version of himself. And that's really what someone who loves you should do. Obi-Wan keeps pushing Anakin, but it's because he wants Anakin to be the best version of himself. Even Mace wants that. And in a way, I had the thought, Mace deep down does love Anakin. Because he wants him to be the best version of himself.
Yeah.
And so does Luke. Even Leia.
Well, I got to wrap this up in the next minute or two, though, just to let you know. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize, Tom.
But
We've taken up so much of
what I want to say on that is that, was it me or was Yoda trained in the dark side?
Well, Yoda is a politician before he's a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
Because
I've read a lot of the fiction on Yoda when I was younger, and like, well, this guy's a dark character.
Yeah, he made deals with Darksiders.
Yeah,
he made the Dathomir witches. He looked the other way while Anakin committed the butchery of the Tuscans. He plays he plays politics, and he's really more a politician than he is a Jedi. And yeah, there's something funky going on.
Yoda's far more complicated than the wise old troll in the marsh.
Yeah, I really like
Yoda in a movie.
I really like Yoda. He's a complex character.
Yeah, because when you go and take a look in the books, there's a lot more that goes on.
Mm.
Yeah,
it's not just it's Mace's fault because Yoda said so.
No, like Mace takes a lot of the in a lot of books, people the characters tend to say it's Mace's fault, but he's the messenger, so people want to blame the messenger. But,
yeah, there's the history. They say don't kill the messenger.
Yeah, what's more is that Yoda raised Mace. Mace was his Padawan. Mace looks at Yoda and thinks of his dad. Yoda's his dad. So Mace keeps wanting to take the fall for Yoda's stupid decisions and cover for them because he's a filial son. And I will actually say one thing. Had it been Anakin making the decisions Yoda made, Luke would be willing to take the fall for him just as Mace did for Yoda. But the difference is that Mace gets his memory smeared in the comics and in the novels later on. And that's because the ones who write history are Yoda, really. And in this case, it's a very tragic story. But I think that for movie analysis and character analysis like that, I think I'd like to, at some point down the road, maybe
do a discussion on the character of Yoda, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mace, the dynamics of the Jedi characters.
Oh, I should do that. Yeah, I'll write that down.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting discussion because we do discuss a lot of that in private.
Yeah, I'll write an essay of that. But I was also thinking of doing a Kull movie set of analysis like this, or Dragon Heart down the road.
Yeah. Well, guys, I got to wrap it up. All right. I'll reach out in a couple of days with further information and stuff.
Sure.
All right.
Take care, guys. God bless.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Take care. And to everyone concerned, do check out Tom's Substack. Here, I'll move us over to him. Let me just find my way on Substack. His essay, seriously, is really, really good. I really like his essay. No, because I wanted to write an essay like that, and he went and did it. So it's one of those things where, oh shoot, I could have just done the share this tab instead. Okay, I noticed the Ultimate Kahuna made some more comments in the chat. I just want to mark it, Tom's Substack for a minute. Now, as you can see, I really like the visual here, this color. Oh wow, he's got a lot more detail here and sections than I do, than we do actually. So you've got Guns Drawn Part 3. Okay, good. I did like them all. Yeah, so he's got his Guns Drawn story, and I really hope he does make that into a play. And as you guys can see, now, Tom, I think, actually enjoyed some of the Rebel Moon movie. I didn't. But the thing with Tom is he's got a lot more thorough knowledge of the production side. Well, he's been a production assistant. So I really like having his input and getting to know the other sides of what goes into a movie and a lot of the history behind the production of these films. Like his article here about very underrated and very Howardian, the Kull film that deserves respect, is a great essay because I really liked hearing about the budget concerns, the production problems, and how the process came to be that they selected Sorbo for the role. I think that stuff is interesting, and I think that was like I really hope Tom keeps making essays like that because I find those just really cool. And we have Big Kahuna. If I didn't know better, it would sound like Anakin was Jack from The Shining. I would never heard him. I love the little son of a. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's basically between him and Luke. Now, just to shift over to this one. For Big Kahuna, so far, let me actually see if I. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna just stop sharing because I just want to go to the visit site. Let me see. Oh, wait, I could have just. I'm still learning here. Let me see. Okay. Was it here? Yeah. Okay. This one. Now, this is our Substack. Now, first off, yes, there's Radio Nippon, where I do Japanese cultural stuff. I really got to sit down and finally write that review for the one Kirin ga Kuru episode. So here's our set of novels. Okay, actually, I should go see all because, yeah. So we started with Victor Tempest a little. We moved to Baron Cub. I like this story. Prince of Flames, Chapter 1. And we included the first short story in our anthology, Long-Awaited Farewell, the first chapter of our book. And we have The Slave Fields of Vestvarken, which this is chapter 1 of a book I've tentatively called Norval, but I'm thinking of renaming Jex the Hero, inspired by our puppy. So yeah, I'm having fun with writing our puppy as a paladin type, Hazel-styled Moses figure. Baron Cub Chapter 2. Varcola was surprisingly popular, eh, Dan? This short story, well, not short story, this serial novel, we're writing more in a Dracula style, and I'm actually enjoying the style a little more than I thought I would, because like first person is such an interesting way of doing things, and it's something that supplies a different narrative challenge from third person, but it's also really fun in its own right. And we've got a new journey, Prince of Flames Chapter 2, up. We've got Dun Brundi, which was an epic poem I wrote, which is like, I think, 40 pages long or something. Khaled Bolg, my first novels, reworked Chapter 1. We have Varcola Journal Entry 2. And we have, so far, our two most successful serial novel. Well, actually, Baron Cub, I think, is a little more successful than Swift Shadow Murders. The Swift Shadow Murders is more murder mystery with Ivanhoe. And we have, of course, Dark Spire Conspiracy, which is Lord of the Rings, except in Scandinavia. And I really like this story. I really enjoy writing this story. It's the style. I just love writing in a more Tolkienian style. In a proper Tolkienian style, I should say. And we have Sword and Saturday. This is the first edition of the online magazine of sorts. Hey, Lord of Lek. We're currently just going over our material from our Substack. Hope you're well. This was more a chill stream, and we were discussing movies and Tom Hyland's really brilliant called The Conqueror essay, which was a great essay where he analyzed it. And we got The Ultimate Kahuna. Hell yeah, a lot of material you guys have been rocking for a while. Oh, thanks. Um, Glad you approve. Feel free to read any of our serial novels so far in your streams. Um, though I will admit, if I end up listening, I'll probably end up blushing quite a bit. I'm very shy about our works. Maybe that's why it was why my suggestion was, Dan, that you should go and uh, basically, like, when it comes to going out to some of the local cities, the events and whatnot, you should go because you're more personable in real life and less shy than I am.
Yeah,
Right?
and I get that being a little when someone's reading your work, being a little embarrassed,
I'm very embarrassed.
especially if they read it out loud.
Oh God, that always kills me and makes me blush.
And it's like, oh boy, swallow me whole.
Yeah, yeah. What embarrasses me even more is because I plan to soon start publishing our French serial novels and whatnot, and some of the scenes in there are very sloppy sentiment, like they're very sloppy, like not sloppy writing, but like they're just so emotional and over the top of the emotions and whatnot. Like it's the love is uh, uh, like very emotional. The characters burst into anger in a much more explosive manner than, and it's like, ooh, if someone read that out loud, I think I'd be, I don't know, how I'd, I wouldn't get angry. I'd just be very embarrassed. Um, but I think I always fear the mockery because when we were little kids, I wrote a little bit. I wasn't very good, and our stepfather took to reading it and mocking me with it.
Yeah,
And
and that's also why I get embarrassed. It's like,
yeah, he did a number on us. Um, Dark Spire conspiracy sure sounds interesting. Oh yeah, it actually
it's
is.
it's it is a good title.
Yeah, it's one I struggled to find, and then when I happened upon the idea of the Dark Spire, I was like, oh, this. Yeah, I want it to be like the story surrounding a tower, and what's in the tower. Well, then I had to go back to thinking about Norse mythology and sagas, and that was so much fun. And I'm like, my favorite stories are the Nibelungen Lied, so I have to tie it in with that, and from there it took off. I really love that. Um, well, people get emotional hearing their stories read out loud. It's all good, brother. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you're so understanding about that,
Yeah.
Kahuna. Really appreciate it. I want to get back into writing consistently this year. I wrote a novella about my divorce that I deleted, and my original no, I wrote years ago was deleted by my ex-wife on purpose. Oh, that's horrible. That was horrible that she did that. Oh man, I'm really
Well,
sorry.
well, maybe it's good that you deleted that novella about your divorce because
Well, he wrote it, and his wife deleted the original edition. Then he deleted the second one, from what I can understand of this comic. I think it is. I think it's better that he does have it on hand, and that way he can improve it, um, and rather than starting all the way over.
mhm.
I know a divorce is a very emotional, traumatizing
But
thing, but the thing is, it
if an ex-wife is that petty, then maybe not giving her the time of day is the best form of revenge.
yeah, I guess being happy and all. Um, as long as this dark spire wasn't built by Finrod and lost to Sauron by the former stupid brother. Oh, come on! Darn it! You just gave the entire plot away, Mark.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers even for me, the writer. I'm joking. Actually, no. I was going to have it be a human witch, sort of. And the dark spire is, well, I can't reveal too much. I do need to slowly weave it together, and yeah. So But mostly I'm just getting into the mood of the story. I'm trying to do it very slow and steady. Otherwise, you just rush for things. But the link to my Substack is down below. You could look through my posts for Darkspire Conspiracy and read it there. Ultimate Kuna. My OG novel was good. She deleted it out of pure malice while we were married because I deleted the novella I eventually wrote because it wasn't something I wanted to put out into the world. Oh, okay.
I kind of figured that was it.
Oh, that sounds horrible that she deleted your novel. Oh. You got to get back to writing, Kahuna. Like, you got to get back. That's the ultimate form of revenge. If she deleted your best work, write something even better, put that out there, and that's going to be the best thing you could do. Reminds me of old Elric stories based off the... Well, no, like, yeah, I can see how you'd... Yeah, it would definitely give that impression. The story, though, is more inspired by Lord of the Rings and Norse sagas like the Volsungs sagas, because I love the stories of the Volsungs. Dan probably is... Like, Dan knows I could talk for hours on that stuff.
Yeah.
I have. Sigurdur and whatnot, but I want to tie it in with Sigurdur's father, and with Sigurdur's life and Brynhildr and all that. So the Darkspire is the entire story harkens back to those sagas, and but I wanted to set it like so many centuries after, so it's like it's been a while. And the story is going to be written more in a Lord of the Rings, Howardian, Mark Twainian, like that old Victorian lit style. So as best as I could approach that style. And I'm trying to, like, too often in my writing, I tend to rush. And so I want to take it slower and slowly weave together the story and slowly just one thread at a time. So I'm trying to have each chapter be one plot point and deliberately do that because I did that with the Scottish novel and I like that. So I want to have each chapter be one plot point, one plot point, one plot point, and whatnot. Northern European based fantasy and sword and sorcery are great. Yeah, they are. I love seeing come back quite a few of my stories that I've written in the post are very Howardian based fantasy. Oh, well, that's good. I like I wish we'd see more Celtic stuff, and that's why I'm very fond of my French and Scottish stories, is because I like Celtic stuff. Celtic fantasy is not very common, but Northern European is, and I think that it's for a reason, because the Norse sagas are beautiful, beautiful stuff. Wasn't I saying the other day, Dan, that we're heirs as much to a Nordic or a Norse cultural heritage and culture as we are the Greeks and the Romans?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Like, we are. And Tolkien really reinforced that, as did Howard. And yeah, Celtic is underrated as hell. Very strange mythology, though. Yeah, very strange. I find it very hard to wrap one's head around it. But there's a feel to the Celtic stories that's very unique and very special. And
very passionate.
Yeah. I think the best Celtic stories in recent 100 years are those of Nigel Tranter, where he just recounts the story of Scotland over the course of about 1,000 years of history with history novels. But I'd like to see that sort of touch taken to fantasy. So that's where I say my Scottish novel, but most of my works are either Scottish or French. Or, yeah, so the Northern European thing is me kind of going out of my comfort zone and taking a stab at something I'm not as familiar with, but I'm having fun with nonetheless. And because people requested the Scottish novel be published as a serial, I don't want to publish the Scottish novel as a serial, so I'm giving people this instead, a Northern European novel written with the same style, but with different plot and different ideas, and that would be fun for everyone. Also, why are so many stories in mythology across the world based off of the adultery and the resulting actions?
Because in a time of myth and legend,
everybody cheats. Okay.
I think a lot of that goes back to how we perceive characters like Hercules.
Well, Heracles didn't really cheat, but like Zeus.
No, I'm talking. Yeah, Zeus, being a divine being, had adultery. I mean, it'd be a wonder if he'd be faithful.
No, he didn't know how. He couldn't even spell the word. Tell me I'm wrong. You're not, Conan.
You're not. In many different mythologies, that's what happened.
Yeah. Oh, just real quick, we also have our Warrior Wednesdays, so we'll be starting to do streams there of that. And oh man. Now I chose a great image for the last edition, but I'm gonna have to look up some great art on DeviantArt. I'll just leave this here for a moment. So, Mark, highly recommend this for you. Well, you're German. The Varcola story is a mixture of German and there's going to be some Romanian in there. So I'm sure Mark will probably like Varcola. I hope so. But I like the Darkspire Conspiracy. And Baron Cub. Baron Cub is basically Wolf and Cub, except set in the Anglo-Saxon period of England. Even in Celtic mythology, many of the stories start off with adultery, and then in parricide, the reverse. Yeah, that happens way too often, and I think I don't know. It's just you have. I think that's really what people were thinking about. Like, oh well, like every story has to start that way. Now, we did end up promising to our friend Full Screen Boss Fight to show him our Conan Chop Chop. So, I'm having problems with getting it running. I'll just. Oh wow. Let me see if I can get it working because this is a very glitchy game, but it's very fun. Okay, let me just hide. Okay, let me see. This is a game we've got some experience playing with on a Gaming Corner channel and over on Twitch. But here, I'll have to lower the volume. But the thing is about this game is it's a comedy Conan game. It's sword and sorcery, but spoofy. And I just wanted to show it to people because I made reference to it in another stream. And I gotta switch over to this window. And as you can see, the Benums are rather cartoonish. And, well, Dan and I are not exactly the best gamers, although Dan's probably better than I am. Well, anyone who's basically seen these things... Wait, hold on. Will tell you. So, yeah, it wasn't my full intent to turn this into a gaming stream, but we may as well cap off with just one quick level. And I don't know, maybe people like that for this sort of thing. Wait, hold on. Invite. How come it... Did you receive the invitation, Dan?
Yeah. Just had to essentially log on.
Okay, it's loading, huh? Yeah, so this is a game I really enjoy, also because it doesn't require much skill. So we used to occasionally chill stream on a separate YouTube channel this game, and we occasionally have played it with World of Conan and Zero Sum, who are both much better gamers than I am. I really must stress that point. I'm not really a great gamer. So are you sure it's loading on your end, Dan?
It the background that you're seeing that you have.
Yeah.
It's essentially frozen there.
All right. What if I do this? Did it kick you out?
Let me just
see. This thing is glitchy.
Yeah.
All right. Let me try this.
All right. Just give it a sec. Stopping.
Yeah. See, this is the sort of problems we usually have when we try to run this thing. But if we can't get it running, I'll just go into the solo mode, and I'll probably end up just showing a real quick 2 minutes. Age of Mythology. I love that game. That game is probably one of my 2 favorite games of all times. Valkyrie Profile Lenneth and Age of Mythology are the best games ever. I love Arcantos. Oh man, we gotta actually do a Age of Mythology stream, or a set of streams or videos or something down the road, Dan.
Yeah, there I am.
Okay, yeah, like Age of Mythology. I want to play that, but oh man, the problem is I've got schooling tomorrow for 7 hours, which is going to be, utterly hell, and I've got that almost all week long. Oh man. And Age of Mythology is one of those games which, once you start, it's hard to put down. Let me just see. Where are we at? Ooh. Oh yeah, we need this.
Chicken Champ.
Yeah, are you going to take it?
Ice Strike.
Nah. So yeah, this is the sort of game it is, and I'm just wondering if I got the points for anything. Let's see. Inflict arrows, inflict fire. It's all arrow stuff. Why not? 2 birds. You'll probably need it more than I do. Let's see. Can I level up? No. Okay. So where's the... Okay, it'd be right here. So we're just going to show people a bit of the first level. Nemedia, Othir, Brithunia. Oh man, that. Oh, I thought it was a name. That opening. I don't want to say scrawl, but bit that Howard does so good. That said, I'm going to be honest. I always kind of wished Howard had written something like the Silmarillion, like for his own world. You know what I mean? Can you imagine getting the whole of the fall of Acheron?
No, that would have been...
Or even its rise and fall. Like, that would have been epic, right? And that would have really been a game changer as a story. And I also think that it would have been a challenge to the Silmarillion, because the Silmarillion is really... I love Lord of the Rings, but the Silmarillion is vastly superior in a lot of ways, especially if you love lore and history. And the world building Tolkien does, is so incredible. And I love all the little details, how he strings the plot of the vast plot, cosmic plot of the Silmarillion together. And can you imagine just... oh, I don't have a key. That's yours. Can you imagine having that sort of grand epic scale and the, like the intergenerational stuff with Howard? I think he could pull it off. And the Pastiche writers did a good job with some of those, with the bringing in, I think it was Conan's son and daughter. You have Khan, and I think Conan's a legitimate daughter from an Amazon from one of the Black Kingdoms, which in itself is pretty cool. But I think Howard really could have pulled it off quite well. And it would be, it'd just be interesting for all the... Oh, I saw a chest. Oh, well. No. Let's
Oh, wait, was it a regular chest?
Yeah, but let's just keep going.
You could get that art.
Oh, I didn't even notice I was injured. I should pay more attention. Yeah, so that's something I would have liked to have seen Howard do. And I also think, if anything, it'd be nice to... I'm not loading it right. Okay. Duck. I also think it would have been nice had the two actually met. That would have been really interesting. And if Tolkien had, I'd almost want to see the two in each other's playground.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what Tolkien could have done with a character like Kull. Now, I know people would say Conan, but we kind of do see what Tolkien would do with a character like Conan through Aragorn. I'm rather more curious about Kull.
There's oh, darn. No keys.
Yeah. And also Solomon Kane, let's be honest. Can you imagine Tolkien writing Solomon Kane? That would have been awesome.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that would have been the coolest. Or Howard writing someone like Feanor. Oh, I wasn't paying attention there. I got our characters confused for a minute. Yeah, that would have been awesome. Oh, man. I know people would say, some people are going to say, no, you don't mix and match the two. I think you can. And that the two were a lot more versatile writers than what people think they were. Tolkien could write really good sword and sorcery style stories, because you look at the Turin Turambar story, that's very much a almost sword and sorcery tale. That's almost Howardian at a few points. And even Lord of the Rings gets a bit of that with, Aragorn, Elisar.
Wait, let's get that chest.
I know. And in turn, Howard steps into the realm of epic mythology when okay, shoot. When it comes to Hour of the Dragon. So there is that. And I'll just check the... Oh. Chat in a minute. Okay, good. We're at the boss. Yeah, 1 second before we charge in. I want to check chat. Yeah, sick. Yeah, not as good as Age of Mythology. 'Cause that just takes a cake. Oh man, I haven't read enough Conan. Solomon Kane is the man. Honestly, I think that's his name of it. The name of his. That's his some of his best writing. Yeah, I really like Solomon Kane. I think Conan's his best writing. I'll just slightly
Yeah.
disagree. But Solomon Kane is rock solid. I love the Craigier and darker Kane stories because there Howard's able to indulge his horror passion. And the more Howard kind of leans into horror, the better. So I'm going to agree, but also disagree weirdly. I don't know if that's weird or something. But the Howard stories are, yeah. I mean, the Conan stories, I think some of them are better, some of them are less good. But I think that Hour of the Dragon really takes the cake as Howard's finest work, and is a vastly underrated novel, which is very strange because Hour of the Dragon is every bit as well written to a large extent as Lord of the Rings. And it has the same plot. Like anyone who takes one look at it knows it's the same story, just with Conan. And minus hobbits. And really the hobbits are some of the best parts of Lord of the Rings. So it's very there's a lot more crossover between the two than what I think people realize. And I think Conan is at his best in Hour. But as I said, I'm pretty biased because of Hour of the Dragon. But Solomon Kane has some great stories.
There's a heart for you.
Yeah. You go deal with the boss. Yeah, so we're almost done the first level, and that is if we don't screw it up. Which you never know. Or if it glitches out on us, which again, you never know. This game is infamous for its glitches. Slams against wall. Yeah, see, it's easy at this point for the most part, but the later levels are harder. Oh gosh, the ice giant. He's hard. Yeah, we should be just about finished after this round. And I'm going to tag full screen after this, as well as Tom, so that they know, take a look at it, and here it is. Here's the game. I'll take that. Yeah, getting a heart before a heart container. Where's the logic? Yeah, so.
Well, you want to be super healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is it just me, or are we seeing the resurgence of people more inspired by Robert E. Howard instead of Tolkien? Yeah, actually, yes. And I think that it's a very strange thing happening, not just in the Anglosphere, but in other parts of the world. As I think that you have the French sphere, you have a French set of translations which are getting popular with Conan. L'Heure du Dragon, the Hour of the Dragon, is in particular getting popularity with several French comic book adaptations, as well as a French translation. You have the new Japanese translation. The Japanese were previously not very interested in Conan, but now they are. And it's also because Tolkien got run into the ground. The thing is, everything was so centralized, and it was so centralized with the Tolkien estate and the Tolkien society, so that when they went bonkers, everything else went bonkers. And that the other thing is that you had these constant stream of adaptations. When it was just Bakshi and the radio drama, that wasn't too bad. And even then, that was watering things down a little. But the trouble is that when Jackson came along, the idea was that it became so accessible that you could just watch a part of the movie and say, well, I'm a fan. And the books of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion and its attendant epics became superfluous. They were not as important as, say, watching the movie in a lot of people's minds. So that the books that Tolkien wrote, that he devoted his life to, were rendered moot. And Tolkien thus became a brand, not a name. But what's more is that there's this phrase that I didn't like, and people tend to really come after me over it. Jackson's Lord of the Rings. And I don't like that because it means the story no longer belongs to Tolkien, but Jackson. And
exactly,
the movies are the important part, not the books. The books are superb works of English literature. They're the finest type of English literature ever written from over in England. And if you read it aloud, there's a cadence to it. There's like a lyrical, poetic element. It almost rhymes. And this is the case with also the Silmarillion and even to an extent the Hobbit, though not as much as Lord of the Rings or Silmarillion. And you read Children of Húrin, there's a feel and a rhyme to it and its language that's very different from, say, even Howard's work. But the trouble is that the movies changed all the characters. Merry and Pippin and Gimli are nothing but boobs. Aragorn is now basically Jon Snow. And they watered it down. It needed to be watered down for the mass media and the mass culture. And what this ultimately led to was the diminishing of Tolkien. And this was, I think, the objective to an extent, in my opinion. And once he's properly watered down, and the language is watered down as well, and the characters are watered down in a way, they become less important. When it was just the books, or even the graphic novels and comics, you had a lot of emphasis put on the language and on the characterization and the purity of the original product. Now, some characters are improved by being put through an adaptation. Like Spider-Man, the 90s animated cartoon, is vastly better than the comics. I'm not saying the comics are not good. The comics were quite good from 1962 to about 1997. But the cartoon is so much better because that's the revised, like Stan Lee helped write that and pen that. That's his revised edition. The comics were the rough draft. The cartoon is the final draft, the final copy. But in Tolkien's case, this is not what happened. The final draft was the books. But with the constant stream of adaptations, the more something is adapted, the less relevant it is. Because, for example, you have how many radio dramas? Then you have Bakshi. You have some more radio dramas. Then you have Jackson's movies, and then you have, of course, the Hobbit movies, which were utterly irrelevant, and then you have the Rings of Power. And I would argue that from a pop culture, like, or at least in the mass, like in the overall Anglosphere, by the time Rings of Power, there was no need for it to exist. Tolkien had already been brought down, arguably, from the larger cultural sphere. It was already laid down into the ground because the adaptations had watered and weakened him in a way, because you have to keep watering it down. But the Jackson Lord of the Rings movies are better than the Jackson Hobbit movies, from what I know, because it's slightly watered down. You have to keep thinning the books out in order for it to be better digested, I would argue. And thus, you finally get to the final copy, that is to say, Rings of Power. Now, I'm not trying to attack Jackson. If you love his movies, good on you, love his movies. But also read the books. The books are very different. They're just, I don't want to use the term ethereal, but they're very special. And I may love the Hour of the Dragon, and I may love the Conan the Barbarian movies, but the Conan movies, even the Conan comics, as much as I love them, are not Howard's work. Howard's work is what's important.
This isn't a little watered down version like Berserk.
Yeah, and you also have watered, like, anyone who tries at Sword and Sorcery is trying at Howard. But I would argue that while some of the pastiche stories and some of those inspired by it are very talented writers and artists, but they're not Howard. But ultimately, can we get a writer to create that beautifully in the genre? Yes, we can. But it has to come from a place of love, not profit. And I know that sounds somewhat sloppy, romantic, and whatnot, but that's just at least my perspective. And I think that the difference between Jackson and Milius is that I think Milius truly came at it with a much greater deal of love and passion. And the director and Kevin Sorbo, and Charles Edward Pogue, when they came to the Kull movie, they came from a place of love. You can feel it. With Jackson, I just don't think that love is there. I've always seen his movies and just thought these are very corporate products. These are products, not movies and films in the same way that, say, Dragonheart, Kull the Conqueror, Merlin, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, the Narnia trilogy of movies are. But they mean so much to a lot of people, and that's important. They introduced millions to the books, but they should have introduced more to the books. And more I'm also seeing people attacking the book readers for reading the books when they should just watch the movies, which this is something I am very nervous about, and I don't really like. So the thing is, Tolkien has been kind of weakened as a cultural icon, and his works as the peak of what to aspire after. And really, it's the Tolkien estate which kind of did it to itself over the decades. Whereas Howard, we haven't gotten as many adaptations. And the adaptations we have had, for the most part, did not assume the same cultural gigantic position that Jackson's adaptations did. And what's more is that Howard, everything was decentralized. But I would argue that the adaptations we have had of Conan, you look at some of the pastiche novels, not all. Some of them have been terrible, beyond the pall. But others have been, like, you look at the Dark Horse comics, they're just fantastic works of art. The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit comics are nowhere near as great as those Dark Horse comics from the early 2000s. You also look at the Kull Dark Horse graphic novel run, which was amazing. You look at but it's more than that. there's a love for the spirit of Howard, and that really shows in a lot of these works. But it's also that a lot of the current era is all about subversion and deconstructing these classic cultural icons. That's not yet happened to Conan, and I don't think it's going to happen. And this is why it's so important to cling to Conan and Howard. And Howard has slowly assumed a larger role because Tolkien has been deconstructed ever more with every attendant adaptation. Howard has not been. People have played Howard straight. Conan the Barbarian, even Conan the Destroyer to an extent, and Kull the Conqueror, and the Solomon Kane movie. Wow, did that thing ever stick close to the source material's spirit? They are love letters to Howard, and that's really important. But maybe that's just my point of view. Many will probably disagree, but that's
I think the one time they truly tried to subvert Conan, they fell flat on their faces.
Which time was that?
The one TV show.
Oh yeah, but that show they were genuinely trying to adapt. But that show didn't crash so hard nobody remembers it. And
exactly.
Yeah, nobody remembers that. And that's for a good reason. When you're that terrible, no one remembers, it doesn't seep in. But the thing is, I would argue Howard has had better adaptations for the most part. But also he's not had, like, Tolkien's had bigger adaptations. Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. You know, like, everybody has to pay attention because it's bigger. Howard has not had big adaptations. They've been smaller adaptations. So they garner a small audience. They each garner a small audience, and that small audience is all mixing together. And that's accruing a larger and larger audience. The Howard platform, so to speak, has been built slower over the course of many decades. Tolkien's was built faster, and thus it's collapsing faster. Howard's, I don't think is going to collapse.
And I think another part of that has
the fact that academics are able to take ownership of Tolkien, though Tolkien scorned them, and thus, you know, like this, our culture is very influenced by academia, whether people like it or not. Howard has been hated by academia, but the thing is, the blue collar, the regular man, the everyman, your average person can look to Howard and really feel much more at ease and at home with him because he was one of them. With academia taking ownership of Tolkien away, this also plays a factor. But anyways, I'm rather tired, and I hope my answer wasn't too obnoxious or anything and too simplistic or obtuse. For one thing, I want to go eat, and I've not eaten in a few hours.
Amen to that.
Yeah, nous sommes français alors. C'est toujours la bouffe qu'on pense à. So, ultimately,
la bouffe est rhum.
Why? If you want to read any of our works, feel free. Just tag us either on Twitter or let us know. You could even say in the comment section that you'll do so. We'll share it all over. Or if you're on Substack, follow us there. Either way, we'll share it. If you're doing a reading of Tom's as well, we'd also like to hear that because I really like Tom's work. So, Tom, our work, let me know. We're on Twitter. You could post in the comment section, or if you want, let me see. So like reach out, and we'll definitely be very excited to hear what you've got to. What you're going to be reading, and I will honestly share it in all my YouTube channel community tabs. Dan will probably be keen to share it with some Discord buddies, and I think we're both going to be excited to share that, even if I'm a little embarrassed and I blush, because it's going to be pretty cool. But just know we update about every story once a month because we write very slow. But anyways, good night, Stephanie Frederick. Hope we weren't too boring or going too far off topic this time. This was meant to be a much more relaxing stream. And hopefully when we come back on Wednesday with this sort of stream, it'll be relaxing and just slow paced and whatnot. So it might be a little shorter than this one though. And we may not include video games. I don't know. I honestly don't. But we'll see everyone around and hope everyone has a great time. And do tell us what you think in the comment section. And especially you, Ultimate Kahuna, we'd be very curious to hear about your channel and more about it. Good night, Mark. And I know many are not Christian, but on our channels, but God bless nonetheless. And may the force be with you all, and wishing you all the best. So do take care, and hopefully we'll see you all on the Monday stream for more Lord of the Rings as we get to chapter 5, A Conspiracy Unmasked.